I was standing in line for coffee this morning, and the person in front of me ordered a turmeric latte with a shot of echinacea.
Oh, yeah.
And I looked around, and it feels like half the snacks in the store are now adaptogenic or functional. It's not just food anymore. It's like a medical intervention.
It is definitely a moment. I mean, in just the last couple of decades, sales of herbal medicines in the U.S. alone have jumped by over 50%.
That is a massive shift. But I have to be honest, and I think a lot of listeners feel this way too. There's a part of me that sees that turmeric latte and thinks, is this actually doing anything?
Sure.
We have this ingrained skepticism where herbal medicine just feels like folklore. It's the alternative stuff,
Right.
whereas real medicine comes in a blister pack.
That skepticism is completely understandable, given how we're taught to think about health. We tend to put things in two separate buckets, hard science and nice plants. But here is the reality check that usually floors people. That distinction, it's largely imaginary. If you look at the pharmacological data, about 75% of our modern medicines rely on the curative properties of plants.
75%? That seems really high. I mean, I know aspirin comes from willow bark, but 3/4 of everything.
It's huge. And we aren't just talking about home remedies. We're talking about the chemical foundations of chemotherapy, heart medication, pain management, the whole shebang.
Wow.
So the mission for this deep dive isn't to just give you a list of teas to drink. We're using the Encyclopedia of Herbal Medicine by Andrew Chevalier to really look at the machinery under the hood.
Yeah.
We need to understand how plants work on a molecular level and then look at the bizarre history of how we almost, threw all that knowledge in the trash.
I like that idea of looking under the hood because that's where my skepticism usually kicks in. With ibuprofen, I know there's a specific molecule, 200 milligrams, doing a specific job. A plant just feels messy. It's variable.
Messy is a great word for it. A pharmacologist might call it complex. And this is the fundamental clash between modern biomedicine and herbal medicine.
Right.
Modern medicine is obsessed with isolation. You find a plant that works, you hunt down the one chemical responsible, you extract it,
And you throw the rest away.
and you throw the rest of the plant away.
Which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
You get a clean, potent, predictable dose. Why would you want the rest of the weeds?
Well, Chevalier uses a fantastic analogy in the text that challenges that. He compares a medicinal herb to a mechanical watch.
A watch, okay.
Imagine you take a watch apart. You lay all the cogs, springs, and gears on a table. You pick up the mainspring and you say, aha, this is the part that provides the energy.
Okay, I'm with you. That's the active ingredient.
Right. But if you just hold that spring in your hand, does it tell you the time?
No. It just uncoils and sits there.
It needs the gears, the escapement,
Yeah.
the hands. It needs everything to actually function. This is the concept of synergy. A single plant might contain thousands of different constituents. And the research is increasingly showing that these parts interact in ways that isolated drugs just don't.
That sounds good on paper, but can we get a bit more concrete? Because synergy is one of those buzzwords that gets thrown around a lot. Give me an example where the whole plant actually does something better.
Okay, the classic example Chevalier highlights is Chinese rhubarb.
Rhubarb, like for pie.
Close cousins, but this is Rumum palmatum. It's been used medicinally for centuries. Now, this plant is a chemical paradox. It contains a group of chemicals called anthraquinones.
Okay.
If you isolate those and take them, they are a powerful irritant to the gut. They stimulate peristalsis.
That's a laxative.
Strong one. But the same plant also contains tannins. Now, tannins do the exact opposite. They're astringent. They dry up mucous membranes and contract tissue. They're used to stop diarrhea.
Wait, hang on. So if I take this plant, am I taking a laxative or a stopper?
Yeah.
Because those seem like two very different outcomes.
That's the beauty of it. It depends entirely on the dose. In low doses, the tannins dominate, so it treats diarrhea. In higher doses, the anthraquinones take over, and it acts as a laxative. The plant has a built-in regulatory mechanism.
That is wild. It's almost like the plant has its own gearbox.
It does, and an isolated drug usually just pushes one button really hard. The whole plant is balancing multiple buttons at once. That buffer effect is why some herbalists argue the whole plant is safer,
How so?
while the other chemicals often mitigate the side effects of the main active one.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
But to get there, we have to talk about those chemicals. Because when I look at the back of a supplement bottle, I see words like saponins or phenols. And honestly, my eyes just glaze over.
I get it. It looks like high school chemistry class. It's fascinating chemistry. Let's just decode a few, because once you know what they do, the plant world makes way more sense.
Okay.
Take saponins. The name comes from soap sap, because if you put them in water and shake them up, they lather.
So, we're eating soap? Is it just like cleaning out the digestive tract?
Not quite. It's weirder than that. Chemically, steroidal saponins are remarkably similar to human sex hormones.
Wait, what? Soap chemicals are like hormones.
It's a strange convergence of nature. But think about the contraceptive pill. That changed the world, right?
Massive social impact, absolutely.
The pill was originally synthesized from constituents found in wild yam, specifically because of these saponins. Scientists needed a cheap, abundant source of steroid-like molecules to manipulate, and they found it in a yam.
I had no idea the pill came from yams. That really drives home that whole plants as factories idea.
It's a direct lineage. Then you have phenols and tannins. We mentioned tannins with the rhubarb. They cure leather, literally tanning it.
Which sounds incredibly harsh for the human body.
It can be, but think about a weeping wound or bleeding gums or inflammation where tissue is swollen. You want something that tightens and dries. An herb like oak bark is full of tannins. It acts as an astringent. It physically knits the tissue closer together.
Okay, so it's like mechanical repair on a cellular level. What about the stuff that smells? I assume that's important.
Oh, crucial. Those are volatile oils. Volatile just means they evaporate into the air easily, which is why we can smell them. But they aren't just plant perfume.
Right.
In plants like tea tree, those oils are the plant's own immune system. They are powerfully antiseptic to keep the plant from rotting or getting infected. So when we use tea tree oil on a cut, we are literally borrowing the plant's immune system to boost our own.
That's a cool way to look at it, borrowing immunity. But then you have the scary stuff. I remember reading about cardiac glycosides. That sounds like something you'd hear on an ER drama.
It is serious business. These are chemicals that have a direct, potent action on the heart rate. The most famous one is foxglove or digitalis.
Which is a beautiful flower. I've seen it in gardens.
Beautiful and deadly. It contains glycosides that can stabilize a failing heart by making contractions stronger and more regular. But the difference between a therapeutic dose and a fatal dose is razor thin.
So this isn't something you brew up in your kitchen teapot.
Please don't. Exactly. This became the basis for the drug digoxin, which is still used in hospitals today. But this brings up a huge question. We have mass spectrometers and advanced labs to figure this out now. We know why foxglove works.
Right.
But humans have been using these plants for thousands of years. How on earth did they know?
That's what blows my mind. If it takes a PhD to identify a cardiac glycoside, how did a hunter-gatherer figure it out without killing themselves?
Trial and error, certainly. But the history goes back further than you might think. The source describes a burial site excavated in Iraq, the Shanidar Cave.
How old are we talking?
We're talking 60,000 years.
60,000, so Neanderthals.
Likely, yes.
And they found a grave containing 8 different medicinal plants, including ephedra.
Ephedra. That's still used today, isn't it, for asthma? It is. It opens the airways. The fact that it was carefully placed in a grave suggests that from the very beginning, herbs weren't just practical tools like a spear. They had spiritual significance. They were a bridge between life, death, and the supernatural.
I guess if a plant can save your life or kill you, it would feel pretty magical. That connection between the look of the plant and its use, that was a big thing in the Middle Ages too, right? The doctrine of signatures?
That's a fascinating chapter. The doctrine of signatures was this medieval philosophy that God had marked every plant with a signature, a visual clue to its use.
Like a divine labeling system.
Exactly.
Give me an example.
Okay, take lungwort. The leaves are spotted, and they actually look a bit like ulcerated lung tissue.
Oh, that's vivid.
So under the doctrine, the logic was, this looks like a lung, therefore it treats the lung.
That sounds like pure magical thinking. Did it actually work?
Surprisingly often, yes. Lungwort is actually effective for chest infections. Now, was it divine providence, or did they just notice it worked and then justify it with a visual story later?
We'll never know.
We don't know, but it shows how desperate people were to find some kind of order in nature.
We usually think of that time, the Dark Ages, as pretty grim, just, people rubbing dirt on themselves and praying. But the text suggests it wasn't that simple.
The Dark Ages is a bit of a misnomer, especially in medicine. It wasn't total ignorance. For instance, excavations of an 11th century hospital in Scotland, run by monks, they revealed they were using opium poppy and marijuana.
Monks using marijuana. That's quite an image.
It wasn't for recreation. They were using them as painkillers and anesthetics. They were performing surgeries, and they needed strong sedatives.
They were managing pain.
With the most potent tools they had. And further south, in Italy, the Salerno school in the 12th century was actually surprisingly progressive. They allowed women to train as physicians.
Really? In the 12th century?
Yes, there was a famous female author on obstetrics named Trotula, so the knowledge was deep and it was structured, but then the world opened up. Explorers like Marco Polo and eventually Columbus, they changed the game entirely.
Right, the Columbian Exchange.
Suddenly, Europe is flooded with new plants. Cinchona bark comes from South America, which gives us quinine to fight malaria, a total game changer. Lignum vitae, and even food as medicine.
The text mentioned potatoes in a medicinal context, which I found hilarious.
The humble potato. Before it was just a side dish, potato juice was used as a remedy for arthritis.
I'm never looking at a French fry the same way. So, okay, we have this rich global history. We have monks, explorers, ancient wisdom. When did it break? When did science decide, okay, plants are out, chemicals are in?
The Great Divergence, as we might call it, really starts to take shape with a man named Paracelsus in the 16th century. He's a real character.
Is he the villain of the story?
He's more like the anti-hero. He's often called the father of chemistry. He was one of the first to start using minerals and synthesized chemicals in medicine, moving away from just herbs. But his biggest contribution was a maxim that is still the cornerstone of pharmacology today.
Which is?
It depends only on the dose whether a poison is a poison or not.
Which goes right back to your foxglove point. The dose makes the poison.
Exactly. But while Paracelsus started the chemistry, the philosophy came from René Descartes.
The I think, therefore I am guy? I usually associate him with philosophy class, not medicine.
That's the irony. His logic is exactly what split the mind from the body. Descartes viewed the body as a machine. Before him, healing was holistic. It involved the vital force or spirit. Descartes pushed that vital force into the realm of the church. Medicine became purely mechanical.
So the body is just a broken clock and the doctor's the mechanic. You don't need a shaman, you need a wrench.
Precisely. And that led to the rise of what they called heroic medicine in the 18th and 19th centuries.
Heroic makes it sound noble.
It was anything but. It was heroic because the doctor would take these drastic measures to shock the body back to health. This was the era of massive bloodletting.
Oh, right.
If you were sick, they'd bleed you. If that didn't work, they gave you heavy doses of mercury or calomel.
Mercury.
Yeah.
The stuff that is famously toxic.
They were poisoning patients in a desperate attempt to cure them. It was a grim reality. And the real tragedy is that while European doctors were bleeding patients dry, indigenous cultures were often sitting on the cures. The story of Jacques Cartier is the perfect illustration of this.
This was the scurvy story, right?
Yes. It's 1535. Jacques Cartier is stuck in the ice in the St. Lawrence River in Canada. His crew is dying of scurvy. And scurvy is a horrific way to die. Your gums rot, your teeth fall out, old wounds reopen. They were terrified.
And the local indigenous people saved them.
They did. The local chief saw the condition of the men and taught them to boil the bark and leaves of a specific tree to make a tea. The men drank it and recovered almost miraculously.
Because, as we know now, it was packed with vitamin C.
Which the indigenous healers knew by experience. But here's the kicker, and this is the part that makes you want to scream at the history book.
What's that?
It took medical science 2 centuries, until James Lind in 1753, to discover that fresh greens prevented scurvy.
200 years. That's generations of sailors dying for no reason.
200 years of science ignoring folklore because it didn't fit the mechanical model. It just shows the arrogance that can happen when you dismiss traditional knowledge.
That is incredibly frustrating. But okay, let's fast forward to today. We aren't doing bloodletting anymore. We have antibiotics, surgery, incredible technology. But we're also seeing this huge comeback for herbs. Feels like we're trying to find a balance.
We are, but we're entering what I'd call the danger zone. Because of that skepticism and, the failures of modern healthcare, people sometimes swing too far the other way. They think natural equals safe.
I hear that all the time. It's just a plant. It can't hurt me.
And that is a dangerous myth. Remember Paracelsus. The dose makes the poison. There are herbs like comfrey, which was very popular historically for healing bones, but we now know it contains alkaloids that can cause severe liver damage.
Right.
Or mahuangaphedra, which can be toxic if the dosage is wrong.
So you can't just go grazing in the woods and hope for the best.
Definitely not. But there's an even more practical problem for the modern listener. Quality control. When you buy a bottle of aspirin, you know exactly what is in it. When you buy a bottle of black Kuhash at a gas station, do you really know what's in there?
I assume there are regulations.
It's the Wild West. The source mentions a pivotal study from 2006 on black cohosh, which is used for menopausal symptoms. They tested 11 commercially available products.
Yeah.
Only 7 of them actually contained the correct herb.
What was in the others?
Cheaper Chinese substitutes that look similar but have different chemical profiles. Or sometimes just dried grass and filler. It's called adulteration.
That's scary. You're taking medicine that isn't even the medicine. So how do we fix that?
Modern science is actually coming to the rescue here. They're using fingerprinting.
Like CSI for plants.
Exactly. They use a technique called chromatography to map the chemical profile of a genuine plant, its unique signature of all those saponins and tannins we talked about. They can then test a batch and see if the fingerprint matches. If it doesn't, it's a fake.
We need high-tech science to verify nature.
Exactly. And there's also the cost of this popularity. If everyone starts buying these herbs, where are they coming from? We can't just grow everything in a lab.
That's the ecological impact.
We are loving these plants to death. Golden seal is a great example. It's a powerful antibiotic herb native to North America. But demand is so high, it fetches around $150 a pound.
Wow.
It's now endangered in the wild because of overcollection.
We're harvesting it into extinction.
It's happened before. The source mentions a plant called sylphium. Have you heard of it?
No, never.
That's because it's gone. It was a member of the carrot family used as a contraceptive in ancient Rome. It was incredibly effective and worth its weight in gold. The Romans loved it so much and harvested it so aggressively that it went extinct in the 3rd century.
We literally ate a species out of existence.
We did. The last stock was reportedly given to the Emperor Nero as a curiosity. We ate it to death.
Wow. That is a grim warning. So if we're going to embrace herbal medicine, we have to do it sustainably. We can't just strip mine the forest for cures.
Absolutely. We have to treat these plants not just as commodities, but as complex biological resources that we need to steward.
So let's try to synthesize all this. We've gone from, 60,000-year-old shamanic burials to the doctrine of signatures, through the mechanical separation of body and mind by Descartes, and now we're swinging back.
We are.
We're realizing that the whole plant offers a synergy that isolated chemicals often miss.
Right. It's not about rejecting modern medicine. Antibiotics save lives. If I break my leg, take me to the ER, not the garden. But it's about recognizing that for chronic conditions, for balance, and for working with the body rather than just suppressing symptoms, these ancient, complex chemical factories, plants have wisdom. We are only just beginning to decode with science.
It really makes you think about what's actually in your kitchen.
That's the thought I want to leave you with. We have these rigid categories in our heads. Food goes in the fridge, medicine goes in the cabinet.
Yeah.
But when you look at the source material, where lemons fight infection, oats calm the nervous system, and garlic supports the lungs, is that distinction real?
Is the grocery store actually a pharmacy?
In many ways, yes. The distinction is an illusion.
Something to think about the next time you're in the produce aisle. Maybe that apple a day really does keep the doctor away, if you understand the chemistry. Thanks for listening to this deep dive. Stay curious and check your sources.